Homeworthy. I'm Katie, and this is my mom, Coco.
I'm Coco.
Happy Mother's Day. We live just a couple blocks away from each other here in Lake Forest, so we want to show you both of our houses today. Come on in.
Welcome to a special edition of Homeworthy. In celebration of Mother's Day, we're unlocking the doors to 2 generations of design. This week, we're honoring the unique bond between mothers and daughters by stepping into each of their homes as they jointly share their stories, style, and the spaces that bring them closer.
We sold our family home when my youngest went to college and moved into the city. And so now this has kind of become the hub for us, and it's been really fun.
From timeless heirlooms to modern takes on family traditions, we'll also share easy ideas for adding a floral flourish to your own Mother's Day celebration. So get cozy and enjoy our Mother's Day series, because nothing says home like a mother's touch and a daughter's twist.
Happy Mother's Day. Bye.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I am Coco Powell, and I'm in here now today as an influencer, and I'm with my daughter, Katie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie, and I am so excited to be here today on Homeworthy with Coco. And I am thrilled to have Coco living just a few blocks away from me so we can see each other every day and film some content for social media. So Coco lived in the city, downtown Chicago, for 30 years. We moved to the city when I was right after 8th grade. So Coco spent a lot of time living in the city right downtown Chicago, and she loved walking up and down Michigan Avenue, Oak Street. She was definitely a city girl. And my husband grew up here in Lake Forest, so we moved up here when we had children about 15 years ago. And Coco had absolutely no interest in moving to the suburbs, but eventually pulled her up here and convinced her actually to check out this place where she's living now. And I think, although she misses the city a lot, I think she hopefully loves being just a few blocks away from us, because we see her all the time. My sister ended up moving up here too. So there are 3 of us up here. At one point there were 4 of us living up here in Lake Forest. So we see Coco a lot.
Alessandra Branca did my living room downtown in this color, and I had saved a palette of it. And
I think it's a custom color, actually.
Yeah,
which
I
is
do.
Sort of fun. So in her city apartment, she had a living room that was this color, which is a custom color. And she said, well, if I move to Lake Forest, if I move to this place, I just want to replicate what I had in the city, including this color. So
yeah, I love it. And people walk by in the evening and see my lights on and say, ooh, we'd love to come see that color. So I like to entertain. I always had dinner parties, and so I continue to like that. Clearly they're smaller than they used to be, but I like to give little dinner parties. Maybe I'm outgrowing it, I don't know.
I would say, so my mom's 88, she still throws dinner parties. She has election parties on election night, and she has Valentine's parties for her friends, and she has Sunday night dinners sometimes with her friends. She loves entertaining. She is like the queen of styling a table. She loves setting her table. She usually does it, like if the dinner party's on a Saturday, she usually sets the table on like Tuesday or Wednesday. So she's
It's
really
the best part.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I love it.
That's her favorite part, and she does the most beautiful job. So it doesn't matter if she's having, a beautiful beef tenderloin, or if she's having, sliders. She has the most beautiful tables. So that is always really fun. Even when the grandchildren were very small, she had these pretty things all over the place, but everyone was really good about
I let them play with everything.
Yeah.
I have keys missing for locked doors because I allowed them to wander around. I don't know where those are.
Yeah, and I feel like your pretty little things, you were
Yes.
never
No.
She always keeps things so beautiful and so tidy, but it was never so precious that people couldn't touch it.
Here we are in my living room.
Okay, so one thing I love about this living room is the color. Can you just tell us about the color really quickly?
Yes, it was an Alessandra Branca color that was in my apartment in the city, and I loved it.
And how would you describe it? Like, what is this color?
I don't know. Is it sort of pink and rose and red? It's just, I think, a very interesting, warm color. I love it.
At night when the lights are on and the fireplace is on,
lovely.
it's very like cool and soothing, and I feel like it makes everybody's, complexion look good. Okay, so then can you tell us about the white clouds here?
The white clouds. People would sleep on these sometimes. That's how they got the name, the cloud. And this was a wedding gift to my parents from Uncle Ed's girlfriend. He never married her. But anyway, I think it's nice that I still have it. And this was also given to my parents for their wedding.
This is one of my favorite things in Coco's living room. It always has been. This tiny little fireplace, these tiny little fireplace tools. I love them because they are so tiny. And they're perfect for Coco's. For this house, they were kind of perfect for her living room in Chicago. My sister found them at an antique store in Chicago, and I just love them because they're just perfect size for Coco.
They're small apartment.
Yes. So another really cool thing I think is that I have a lot of things in my home that belong to my mom and my grandmother and my husband's grandmother. But what I love is that Coco also has stuff in her home that belonged to her mom, as we've seen with these other things. There's another print over here and the clock above the architecturals over there. Those both belong to my grandmother. And so I loved kind of growing up and seeing them move from my grandmother's home in Florida to my mom's house in Chicago, and now my mom's house in Lake Forest.
Well, the box was a wedding gift to Bob and to me from our ushers and bridesmaids. Carol, Robert, Powell. And then here are the names of the ushers and bridesmaids. It's a cigarette box, and that's when cigarettes were really in vogue. Now it just is a box. Some of my pictures of my children, that was our apartment. This was at the Greenbrier on Christmas Eve. And this was on our last oarboat trip when we didn't tell the truth about Katie's age, and she got to go with us as a family. And this picture was in the Chicago Tribune. It's Katie's dad in the playpen from 1936 with his brothers and his uncle, who was a movie star. Well, this was actually a linen closet for the second bedroom and bathroom. And I didn't need a second bedroom and bathroom. So I decided I needed a miniature bar made out of the linen closet. And it really has been wonderful because there's not all that much storage here. And I have shelving down here where I have ice buckets and coasters and whatever. But it's been really quite a boon to my living. This was my grandfather's where you'd put toothpicks. These were wedding gifts. But I don't think people use after dinner drinks anymore, do they? And this was obviously a wedding gift, but it was not with the drinks. And this was my mother's in her house. She must have used a lot of black and green too. This was given to me, I think on my 50th birthday by a good friend. And when my oldest grandchild came to visit for the first time, she picked it up and whoa, and her father caught it. These, I think, we bought in Madeira, did we? And for my 3 oldest grandchildren, Sarah, Nicholas, and Henry. And so when they would come to my house, I'd serve probably their snacks on those trays. These were mint julep cups, but I've given my children all of them except I still have Bob's in mine. When we used to have a home at a resort area and we'd have a lot of people for dinner, it would be a casual dinner, obviously, with a lot of people, but I would always put mini Dove bars on a silver tray. And they all said, we're going to get that idea from you. That's how we're going to entertain.
Everybody always comments on your tables, as I said. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what we're having for dinner. Coco's
No, it
tables are
doesn't.
always really beautiful. She has beautiful silver serving pieces that my mom and dad got for their wedding 50 plus, how many years ago? 50,
Oh gosh,
5 years
60,
ago.
no, 60 some.
I was 60
Well-
something years ago. Everything, no matter whether it's in the dining room or the kitchen, is she always uses her really beautiful things that she and my dad got for the wedding, which is fun.
But that was in the day when, young people wanted silver and crystal. And it's not so much that way anymore, is it? Well, my girls still use their pretty things, don't you?
We do, and actually now for our birthdays, sometimes birthdays and Christmas, Coco will sort of wrap up some beautiful silver bowl or something that she received for her wedding for us for a gift, and that's always a really fun thing for us.
Here we are, ready for dinner. In the dining room, we have two colors. Katie chose the pale pink, and I love it. And it just can go with anything. And below is a grass cloth that Katie had. This is my wedding china, one of the two that I had. And these are Katie's matching Demitas cups, which I sort of, when I have broth that I make as an appetizer, I use her cups. Well, in the broth, you can take a can of V8 juice, fill it to the top with beef broth, and then again fill it to the top with chicken broth, and then add a little lemon juice and heat it up. It is so good. I often serve it when I have, when we're sitting in there having appetizers before dinner. My mother made cranberry ice for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we would always have it in these little sherbet cups. I lived in Pennsylvania with my parents, of course. I was their child, or only child. But then when I was about 6, my father built a glass bottling company plant in Lincoln, Illinois, which I referred to as the garden spot of the Midwest, but it clearly wasn't. And my mother just was destroyed that we had to move to Lincoln because she heard that the farmers came into town in their bare feet on Saturdays. I don't know that they ever did, but I had a great education. I think that people there had gone to wonderful colleges, and we had music of the Baroque, we studied Shakespeare. It was for a little town, a little community of 20,000. I think the education for me was terrific. Then I went to college, to Denison University, and the first date I had with my husband-to-be, I called my mother the next morning and said, "Mother, I've met the man I'm going to marry." And she, of course, said, "Carol, get a hold of yourself." But guess what? I married him 3.5 years later. So that was a dream come true, obviously. Now we're walking into the kitchen, a green and blue room. And on this wall are all of my grandchildren in the Hadley plates. The oldest grandchildren the first ones are over here. Then the younger set is over here. But my husband, the older ones called him Grambo, and the others all called him Bobo. So we had to put 2 names. And then there's Coco. Oh, then this picture back here was the farm that my grandfather grew up in, the house he grew up in. And his father, at his funeral, it was a rainy day, and all the men were in morning coats and top hats as the family they all carried the casket down and put them in the whatever they used then, horse and buggy, I guess. But that was the farm. And then later in life, they hit oil, on the farm. And so my grandfather would take my mother after school out to inspect the wells. Obviously, these weren't there when this was painted. Now we're in the library, but there are no bookshelves because I had them taken out. But these was all open. But I said, no, I have to be able to put some chairs. So they made walls for me with a pocket door. Don't ever get a pocket door, though. But this is Stephanie, Katie, Jeff and Ben, Ben, Jeff. Well, the grass cloth actually was my daughter's leftover, Stephanie's. And the black, I used a lot of black downtown, obviously with the rug and in the apartments. It maybe is too much of a city color, but it pleases me. And I didn't have any of this furniture here then. I had leather chairs over here and a sofa over here. And I had grandsons that would try to be here first if I was taking care of them, different families. And they would race to get here to see who'd lie on the sofa all day. And then these are Katie's wallpapers and, paintings and wallpapers that she has designed and sold. So I like that to be advertised. It was for clothing for the second bedroom, but I didn't have anyone for that. So I, had to have a place to store my pretties. This is my spode pattern that the aunt and uncle, the Hollywood ones, gave us for a wedding gift. And then I have the spode pattern under there. This is my Lavinia. These were my grandmother's luncheon dishes. I used to have 36 of everything, but I don't anymore. Those were my mother's. These we had made for us in Italy with the bumblebees on them. Goes very well with black. Heading to the bedroom. And on this wall to the right are my family. My parents in college, my parents and Carol on my grandparents' 40th wedding anniversary. This is Carol. This was my grandmother with her 3 children, the little girl being my mother. Oh, and then the most important new thing is Katie's painting. Her first early paintings were done on wood because she liked the graining. And then these are actually prints of what she's selling now, making. But she doesn't make them on wood anymore. This is my bathroom, and I'm crazy about the paper. If I have to move to a small apartment, I guess I won't have this again. I think my house is really cute or pretty. And then this is all this I had downtown.
I think my mom has definitely influenced the way I decorate my home and the way I entertain, although I will say Coco definitely entertains more than I do at this point in my life, but there are a number of things. First of all, in every home that Coco has lived, there's always been a room that has, actually most every room has had some bright color. And so definitely I would say Coco's love of color, sort of sprinkled throughout the house, has totally influenced my style in my home and in probably my wardrobe as well. And then I don't entertain as much, but when I do, I love to set a pretty table like Coco. And I've even found estate sale, some of the pattern of my mom and dad's wedding china. So I have some of the plates in my own home, and I love to use those when I entertain. Okay, Coco, so now we're at my house. Should we give them a tour of my house now?
Absolutely. It's a knockout house.
All right, so first we're in our entryway. And I guess my favorite thing about the entry is the pink ceiling. I just really love a painted ceiling. And I chose this pink because actually, you know what? As you know, my parents used to have a home at the Greenbrier Hotel, and this is one of the colors that they used at the Greenbrier. So yeah. So I just love it. I love it during the day. It's so cheerful to walk out of my bedroom in the morning and see this pretty pink, but also at nighttime, it has a really beautiful glow to it as well. Another thing that I love about this entryway are those giant prints of those sort of trippy flowers. And I had them custom made in that giant size because I didn't want to wallpaper our hallway, but I wanted to fill up that space going up the stairs. And I just love them. I think they're beautiful. They're flowers, obviously, but there's just something a little off about them. And so I love that about it. The console table I actually bought at a florist, a local florist. She was displaying some things on the console table, and I asked her if it was for sale. And her husband, actually I asked her husband, the owner's husband, if it was for sale, and he said, yes, it was. And then I bought it and he delivered it to my house. And then the owner showed up at the house or at the store the next day and was so angry with him because he told her it was a different table. So I feel really badly, but I love it in this spot. And actually she was very excited when she saw where it was going. So the mirror actually is one from my mom's old house, my parents' old house, which I love. Everything else is a little like, not super formal, but I love that I have the mirror here, which is a little more formal. And I love that it was Coco's. And then these lampshades I bought online, actually, from a woman in London, and I love them so much. I think they look like little skirts. My sister sometimes says that my house is like a little Holly Hobby, and so I feel like these are definitely a little Holly Hobby, and I love them. So every year in Lake Forest, our Lake Forest library has a big book sale. It's really extraordinary. They fill a huge gym filled with books of all kinds for kids and grown-ups and history books and education, academic books, and they also have these beautiful art books. So a lot of these I purchased at that Lake Forest book sale. The other thing that I love about this little vignette is these two paintings. So these are two of my paintings that I made, and I love them. I love the round shape, sort of reappears in a lot of my paintings, and I just think it's really soothing. And I love the way they look sort of separated. And I also love the two colors, the lilac and yellow together are two of my favorite colors, which I love. It is a colonial style home. There are a few things that I really, really loved about it. I loved the backyard. I loved sort of the flow of the rooms. But what I particularly loved is that one family lived in this house from the time it was built until the time they moved out. And actually, this is crazy, but when they moved out, they moved to the same community, the same retirement community where my mom lives now. So I love that. They raised 4 kids in this home. They lived here for so long. When we toured the house, they told us about the kitchen table where they would help the kids do their homework, and I really loved that about it. It felt right to me when we looked at it. Okay, you guys, so now we're in my living room, which is one of my favorite rooms in my house. I love it because I really felt like it should be like a formal living room. It has taller ceilings than the rest of my house, and it's a really good size. But I also wanted it to feel very comfortable. So I did these super cozy sofas so that my kids could come in and put their feet up and not feel like this room was too sort of precious and formal to be in. And I love this fabric. Actually, I have a really good friend, Catherine Habel, who started a business with her sister called Habel Construction. And we used to work together a million years ago in New York City, and they have a great fabric business. This fabric is one of my favorites, and I have it in this room, and I also have it in our library in a different color. These 2 chairs one of them belonged to my grandparents, and one of them belonged to my parents. They were both wedding gifts. I think this one was my grandmother's, and this was a wedding gift to her, and this one was a wedding gift to my parents. So I love it. I had them recovered, obviously, in this green, which I've had for a long, long time, but it's held up really well, and I love the color. They kind of move around from room to room, but I love them here in front of the fireplace. These little chairs I think are so cute. I love having a little bit of wicker in every room. I love it so much, and actually these tiny little chairs belong to my husband's grandmother. We just had them repainted and the seats recovered, which I think is adorable. I go to estate sales all the time and pick up wicker and rattan furniture. Usually it's outside at their homes, but I love this one in particular because it had the ottoman. And so I picked this one up, and actually this is Habel Construction fabric as well, which I love. So the fireplace, for many years I think I had it painted white. And obviously I love a lot of color. So I love for my eye to kind of jump around the room. And so I just decided that white fireplace needed a little something. So I painted it this bright green color, which is a Pharaoh and Ball color called arsenic, which I actually kind of love the name too. This mirror actually also belonged to my husband's grandmother. I thought it was so beautiful. And I love sort of the juxtaposition between the really formal mirror, again, like I had in the hallway, the super formal mirror with super informal sofas, and also paired with my prints. So these are part of my print collection. They started out as paintings, and then I made them into prints. And also now we also have the same print in a wallpaper. So I love the addition of these to the fireplace. You know what? I have always loved making things. I mean, even when I was a little girl, I loved making things. And so I also have always worked for entrepreneurs, really creative entrepreneurs, sort of in the infancy of their businesses. So I loved sort of watching people wear different hats and try new ideas and turn them into something big. And so I've had lots of little companies. I've had an accessories business. I had a little pajama business for kids. I've had lots of little businesses, but I've always painted and made things. And so probably about 8 years ago, I started putting my paintings out there into the world on social media. And I had a great response. And so that really encouraged me to continue with the painting. And so it's probably been out there in the world for about 8 years, but I've always loved projects. The wallpaper is actually, again, it started out as one of my paintings. So this shape kind of reappears throughout a lot of my work. So originally I made a series of 4 paintings with this shape for a family in Sea Island, Georgia. And they loved the paintings and I loved the paintings, and they had a really great reception. So I started sort of playing with this sort of sea flora shape in my art, in my paintings and in my prints. And someone loved it so much and wanted it as wallpaper. So we did some research, and I worked with a woman in Virginia who helped me find someone to produce it for me. And so we made a line of wallpaper. And I knew that I needed to have this green in my living room. So before I put the wallpaper in this space, I had these bookshelves filled with so many colorful pieces, colorful books and art and all these colorful things. But once I had the wallpaper, I knew that I needed to fill this space with something white, something really, so that you would be able to see the wallpaper. So I found these pudding molds at an amazing estate sale that happens every year in Lake Bluff, which is just down the street from us. And I love them because they're so interesting, and each one is a little bit different inside, and each one is a different size, and they fill up this space, but you can also see the wallpaper. This champagne bucket was a gift to my parents for their 25th wedding anniversary from all of my siblings. My sister sort of coordinated it for all of us. And then it was given to me, actually it's from 1984, so I was in 4th grade. And my mom gave it to me then for our 20th wedding anniversary, which is really special. So I love it. I love having it as part of this room, but I also love it on the table when we entertain. There were 4 of us, and so we all talk to each other throughout the day, every day. And so my mom and I and our siblings have always been thick as thieves. So it's the same as far as our relationship goes from my standpoint, except that we get to see each other all the time, which is really fun.
I think it's wonderful. It's the security at its best for me to know that you're here and Stephanie's here and Jeff was here, just sold his house now.
She is a little bummed that the grandchildren have grown up, and so now they're in high school and college, and they don't come over as much for pretzels.
That's expected.
Cranberry juice.
No,
but
and pretzels.
Yeah.
On the windowsill.
Yeah.
No, but it's how it is. I mean, I've grown up too.
So one other thing that I love to do is I'm sort of a lounger. And so I love coming over to Coco's house in the late afternoon before my kids get home from school, and I just come over and
crash on my bed.
Yes. I just lay down in her bed.
I love it.
We lay down and talk to each other and just hang out. Now that we've started with Coco on TikTok and social media, I come in almost every day to film some content. So it's really fun.
With her phone.
Yes, I bring my phone and we sit usually at her kitchen table, and we try on makeup and skincare and new sunglasses. So I see my mom really almost every day. I mean, we talk to each other probably
At dinner time.
multiple times a day. Yes, for sure. And I'll pop in with my Starbucks, or Coco has been coming over to my house on Sunday nights for dinner, which is really fun. She's been feeling really comfortable at my house, just coming and sitting at the island and having her glass of wine, her glass of Pinot Grigio, and hanging out with me while I cook. So that is really, really fun.
It's great for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
And sometimes actually I will drive by and say, Mom, I'm on my way to the grocery store, come ride with me. Or, Mom, I'm on my way to Starbucks, come ride with me. And so we'll go to Starbucks and she'll get a little donut and I'll get my coffee, or we'll do the drive-through McDonald's because she loves a chocolate sundae. And so those kind of things we definitely were not able to do when she lived in the city. So little things like that are really fun. Okay, so now we're in my dining room. This room sometimes doubles as a studio. Sometimes I like to paint in here. So actually, if you look closely on the table, you'll see some paint marks, and I just think that it sort of adds to the character of the room. But again, I got these chairs at an estate sale. It's a square room, so I think it really needed a round table. So this table was one of the first things that we bought for the house when we moved in, and I love it. And again, there are lots of cracks and crevices and paint marks, and I just think it really adds to the room. Okay, so I set the table today for sort of like a casual dinner or casual luncheon, and I love red. I love red with blue, I love red with yellow, I love red with pink, and so I just adore this Casablanca place setting. Casablanca is a store, and in Palm Beach, but they also design fabrics and wall coverings. So I just love this sort of basket weave vibe of the red and white. I love the bamboo. It's casual. It sort of lends itself well to this room that isn't super formal. And then if you look at the napkins, they're so cute. I think there are all these little manners that are printed on them. Say please, please, chew quietly, elbows off the table, and napkins in your lap. I think it's sort of, I thought they were so much fun. My mom has such a thing for colorful glasses, and so my sister and I probably got our love of fun glasses from my mom. Actually my son loves to cook, and so someone gave him as a gift these little oregano plants from Trader Joe's, and I loved it so much that I decided to fill the table with 2 more. So this I adore. I actually got it at the same place as I got the table, right when we moved in. These chargers I love. Obviously I love green, and this was a wedding gift. All of our wedding china had greens in it. And then also these here, I bought it in an estate sale here in Lake Forest. I'm just crazy about estatesales.net, and my sister and I love to scour them for usually china and silver and that sort of thing. And then I just set this up for you. This, actually the tray belonged to my mother-in-law, which I love, and it had a beautiful tea setting on it usually, but I had these little demi-tasse cups on here. These were also a wedding gift, and I think they don't make this pattern anymore, which makes me so sad. And then these precious little linens. I love antique linens as well. My mom has so much, and I just have sort of picked up her love of beautiful antique linens. And then also a really fun thing I think about this room are these lampshades. Well, gosh, I mean, I feel like everything I get at estate sales, but these lamps I also got at an estate sale. I love them so much. I love that they're kind of small. I decided one day, probably during COVID, that they needed a little something. So I painted them this red and pink, which I love so much. And then finally, the little silhouettes. I'm not sure if you saw in my mom's house, but she always had silhouettes of us in her house. And I love the idea of a silhouette. I love the sharp sort of contrasting color, but I needed mine to have a little oomph. So I when my kids were little, I had them made in this red and navy. So this is my daughter Louise, and that's my son Powell. And then the American flag I loved so much. I got it on a trip with my sister-in-law to Nantucket, and I saw it and I loved it, and she said, Katie, just get it. You can hang it somewhere. And so I got it, and I thought it really needed a prominent spot here in my dining room. And then really quickly, also the color is one of my very favorite colors. It's, this great yellow, which I love. I think it's the perfect yellow. And then my wallpaper, which also began as a painting originally, and we turned it into this crazy wallpaper. And so again, I just think it's fun to have something that's not so formal in a dining room. Okay, so now we're in, honestly, I think it's my favorite room in the house. My husband and I made this kitchen happen actually during COVID, which is a really weird time to do a kitchen. But I love it so much. And we really picked out every single detail of the kitchen. We didn't have an architect, we didn't have a designer. And it just makes me so happy. And I come in here all the time and say, you guys, don't you just love our new kitchen? And it's really not new anymore, but it just feels new and I love it. It's just the perfect size for our family. Really, we eat all of our meals right here at this island, and even we entertain at the island, when we have friends over for dinner or family or Coco every Sunday. We just eat right here at the island. I love this little table situation that we have going on here because I brought in the greens, maybe a little more peppy green with the candlesticks and the chargers, which you saw in the dining room. And then we've also added the sort of darker greens and browns, sort of moodier, muddier greens with the dinner plates, which I love. And then I also love that they go so nicely with my mom's, with the Lavinia. That were her wedding china, and actually I found those also at an estate sale. Okay, so now we're stepping into our library, sitting room, den, whatever you want to call it. This sofa actually was my grandmother's, and I love it. I love it so much. Actually, when I first got it and I first recovered it, I recovered it in a leopard print, which was pretty crazy. I think my dad was like, oh my gosh, if your grandmother could see it now. And then I recovered it again in this Hable construction dot print, which I love, which you've already seen in my living room in navy, but I love it in the red. These lamps, I love them. I love a huge lamp. I love a huge lampshade. But again, the lampshade being pale white, plain white, just really bugged me. So I just took a little bit of paint and a little bit of painter's tape, and I added this green, which I love so much, although I think that I need to add a little something else to the bottom. So maybe the next time you guys are here, they'll look a little bit different. So then I'll show you these interview magazines. I bought these to be honest, I cannot remember where I bought them, but I bought just the plain magazines. I love them. I love the color. I love Interview Magazine. I love everything about them. And again, I said to my sister-in-law, the same one who told me to buy the American flag, I said, oh, should I get them? I don't know. I sort of labored over it, and they were not an expensive purchase by any means, but she said, Katie, yes, you'll hang them somewhere someday. And so then I immediately framed them, and they've been here for 15 years. And I love them so much. And actually, my kids, when they go to dances and homecoming and prom and everything like that, they love to come over to our house to take pictures, which is so flattering to me. And they always stand in front of the interview magazines, which is super fun for me. So, I mean, this art down here kind of changes all the time. I sort of bring some stuff up from the basement and then bring stuff down, and I swap them out. But this actually is a little story that I wrote about my childhood, about growing up, that when I worked for a company, they asked me to write a story about my growing up, and I did, and it ended up as part of their ad campaign, their very first ad campaign. So it's about growing up, the home that Coco and my dad raised us in, and I love it so much. So I blew it up. It was on a little postcard. I blew it up, and I always have it in this room. And the only thing I'll tell you about this area is that it's a mess, and I did not clean it up for you at all because I wanted you to see what it looks like. It's sort of like just where everything ends up that I don't have a place for. So we have these little pictures of my husband and me when we went to an event and we had to get our aura checked, which I don't really know what that is, but that ended up there. There's like a little dancing Jesus here. Lots of clay pots that my kids made. Lots of books that belong to my dad. That's it. So this tiny, tiny little coffee table, sometimes it's just not very functional, but I love it so much because my mom gave it to me. It was actually like the first antique that I ever received as a gift. My mom gave it to me for a birthday, my parents did, and inside that box is filled to the brim with Legos. So they were my son's Legos. They all ended up in there. And so I just, as much as I'd like to have a more functional coffee table someday, I just can't get rid of it. And then finally, the pretty wedding basket I love so much. It was given to me when my husband and I got engaged from my mom. And so she gave one to me, and my sister got a beautiful wedding basket, and my brother and sister-in-law did too. And so it's just special and always has a really prominent spot. What does the word home mean to you?
Family, probably. A gathering place for our family. That was always the most important thing to me. I was an only child, so I liked having a lot of people around me, which sounds not normal for an only child.
My mom always had a ton of people in her house. My brother's friends would come over and just walk right inside our house and go to the pantry because they said our house had the best food. We had a trampoline in the backyard. So many people would come over and bounce on the trampoline, and my parents were, had graduation parties and allowed me in 4th grade to have this rock star party, and it was just a house full of people all the time. What home means to me is family as well. I have a daughter in college now, and she's actually coming home today. I'm so excited. And every time she comes home, I say, "What do you want to do when you get home? What do you want to do?" And she said, "I just want to lay on the sofa and watch TV and be with you guys." I would say the same thing. It's just family, having lots of people in our home. Bye, Homeworthy. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming, and happy Mother's Day.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.